Hey, what's up, guys? It's Jordan with the Laundromat Resource Podcast. This is show 86, and I am pumped that you're here today because today we have on a self-proclaimed nobody who is finding success in this business. I would argue that he is a somebody. I think you'll be convinced that I am the one who's right and not him. But Dan Arnett is joining us today to talk about how he just took small steps, and by consistently taking small steps, it's really taken him to pretty incredible places. And he suggests, which I would probably agree with him on this one, that if he can do it, you can do it too. So we're really going to talk about that a lot today. Incredible interview. You're going to love it. You're going to really enjoy it. So can't wait to share that with you. Real quick, before we jump into it with Dan, I just wanted to say welcome to all the new members. I can't even name them all anymore, but it's super cool to just see how this community keeps growing and growing. All the interactions on the forums. I really haven't tried to brainwash you guys to get over on the forums for a while. So get over there this week, especially if you haven't been over there for a while. laundromatresource.com/forums. You can find that link, every link that we talk about today on this episode in the show notes, which is at laundromatresource.com/show 86. Or if you're on YouTube, down below. And if you're there on YouTube, or if you're listening on a podcast, make sure you subscribe because, man, the information that is flowing here, I feel like I can say this because it's not coming from me. It's unparalleled. It's unmatched in this industry. And I know that personally, I've been learning a ton over the last 86 now episodes, and hopefully you have too. So make sure you're subscribing wherever you're listening or watching this. Anyways, going back to it, go over to the forums, laundromatresource.com/forums. Get over there, ask a question, answer a question, interact, engage, especially go to the new member introductions forums. And if you haven't introduced yourself there yet, go introduce yourself over there. And if you have, or even if you haven't, go find someone else and welcome them to the community. It's a big, big deal to be connecting, networking, brainstorming with, interacting with other like-minded people. And when you're doing that consistently, you're going to find success faster and you're going to take it further. I promise you that. I can tell you that from experience. I can tell you that just from a lot of people that I know, and I'm sure that you've observed that also. So get out there, start interacting with people. The forums are a great place to do that. Okay. Again, welcome to everybody who's new over there, both the pro members and, the free community over there, which is also super valuable. Welcome to all you guys. Cannot tell you how exciting it is to see all of that continue to build and grow. A lot of fun. Feel super humbled and blessed to be a part of it. All right. Not to get too sappy on you, but there you go. All right, let's jump into it, Dan Arnett, because I loved this interview. This guy he's just got like a very humble but passionate take on this industry. And I mean, if there's a theme that runs through this thing, it's, hey, if I can do it, you can do it. And it really comes through. And I don't know how you're going to feel by the end of this, but I felt super jazzed, super pumped up at the end of this and felt like I could move mountains. And so hopefully you will too. All right. I'll catch you on the backside after I chat with Dan Arnett. Dan, thank you for coming on the show. And I just got to say, I know this is not coming out today, but happy Valentine's Day. I'm flattered that you wanted to spend it with me this morning.
There's nowhere else I'd rather be, Jordan. Happy Valentine's Day to you too.
Man, the love is already starting. I love it. Well, hey, thank you for coming on the show. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me. I appreciate the opportunity to share my story a little bit. It's wonderful.
I have like a little bit of an idea about your story, but I'm really excited to hear the full extent of it. But real quick, before we get into who you are and your story, where are you? Because you are in like a vest and a beanie and it looks cold over there.
I had to admire that. Looking in the background, you got your surfing monkey and you're in a t-shirt. And, when I got up this morning, my truck was reading -4 degrees.
Are you serious?
We're in in balmy Northwest Pennsylvania. north of Pittsburgh, about an hour and a half. It's a little bit of a cold spell here, but then Wednesday it'll be 51 degrees. So everybody will be sick with head colds because of the weather going up and down like this, but it is what it is.
I don't want to tell you this, but yesterday, again, it's Valentine's Day today, but yesterday it was 92 degrees here. It was warm. So from -4 to 92, that's a pretty big swing. Man, I don't envy you. I don't think I've ever been in -4 degree temperature before. I'm pretty sure.
You're not missing much. Yeah, you're not missing much at all.
I don't think I could handle it. I think I would die instantly. All right. Well, stay warm over there, and hopefully the love that's flowing between us today will keep you warm. Who are you, Dan? Tell us who you are. Give us a little bit about your background.
The easiest quick answer to that is I'm nobody, man. I am just a middle-aged dude that's married and work a job, and I'm nobody. There's nothing spectacular. And that's part of the reason I wanted to come on and share my story, is that if I can kind of muddle my way through this laundromat world, anybody can do it. I'm married to a wonderful woman, Darlene, who is, I call her the enabler, because any idea I come up with, she'll think about it. She's like, all right, let's do it. Let's go. Let's go for it.
I need one of those in my life. My wife is not an enabler.
We have 3 kids that have grown up, 13, 16, and 18, and they've been along for the ride. And, my son is 13 and he can get on YouTube and he can replace a pump on a top loader and a belt and all that stuff. And if he's not careful, he's going to have a vocation by the time he's 18,
Good. Maybe you can hire some cheap labor until he gets how much he's really worth.
That's my hope anyhow.
Yeah. All right. So you're a family man. I mean, I might argue that you are a somebody, but I know what you're saying. I get what you're saying. There's, nothing particularly special about you. And I'm assuming that's going to play a role, you framing it that way in, in your story here. So, what do you do for a living?
So I work in, kind of conservation agriculture, but we take byproducts and we make industrial absorbent products and spill products to clean up different environmental spills. And a different division of our company does like pollinator plants and wildflower stuff like that. So that's the day job, the non-laundromat job.
Yeah, awesome. Okay, so for me, it begs the question. You've got this family going, and you have a career that seems like it's doing something pretty good, actually, pretty good for our environment and just a solid job. So, talk me through the journey to get into this crazy industry of laundromats.
So I guess maybe it's unique to us, but it's probably not so unique for many stories out there of people looking at investments in general. In 2014, I was diagnosed with stage 4 Hodgkin's lymphoma, which is a type of cancer. I had an 18 centimeter mass behind my breastbone, and I had 5 centimeters of fluid all around my heart. It was in kind of bad shape, and you get that news that nobody ever wants to get. And I'm sitting there in an urgent care of all places and feeling bad for the poor physician's assistant, just a young girl that had to tell me this news. And then, of course, like many other dads, my thought goes to my wife and kids of, oh, no, what's going on? So fast forwarding the story, by the grace of God and some blessings and some science, I went through a year of chemo and radiation and everything went into remission. It met a lot of wonderful people, shared a lot of my voyage, just trying to share with people and be very open about my battle. But during those years, that year and a couple of years after that, we were very much living for today, if you would. If we wanted to go somewhere, we went somewhere. We did something because, no more than today. None of us are guaranteed tomorrow, but it was very poignant at that point of who knows what's coming down the pike. So if we want to do something, let's go do it. So we weren't planning for tomorrow. We were living for today. Well, and then as time went on, you kind of look at, okay, well, maybe it's not as dire. And I was in remission. And that, of course, that's been wonderful. But in this, in my treatment and recovery, I reconnected with an old college classmate of mine who, well, I'm pretty sure he's a cyborg because of the stuff he's accomplished in his life. He's not a member of the human race at all by any means, but he is a cancer survivor that was the first cancer survivor to summit Mount Everest, and then went on to do the Ventures Grand Slam, which is all kinds of crazy stuff. But he has an association called Cancer Climber that every year they take one or a couple cancer survivors over to Tanzania, Africa, and you climb Mount Kilimanjaro. Which, no, it's not the tallest mountain in the world. It's the tallest freestanding mountain in the world. And some of us can picture it if we think hard enough. It's this great big snow-capped, mountain over the plains with zebras and elephants in the front. And so 2 years after I got my remission news, I found myself on the way to Africa to climb this mountain. And in doing so, I raised some money for benevolent and cancer funds around here, as well as for Cancer Climber. Continued on a couple years, just sharing my story with pretty much anybody that would listen. It was important for me, for people to hear that, not all stories end badly when you end up in that situation. Sometimes it leads to some really cool stuff. But just had the need to feel like I did more. So I actually, in 2019, went back again and climbed it again. And, set the goal to raise twice as much for all the charities that I helped the first time. And I carried a flag up with 75 names of cancer patients, whether they're survivors or lost their battle, to the top. And just had, just amazing experience. It's the hardest thing I've ever done, twice. But have got to share and have got feedback with a lot of people who've caught on to my story and said, wow, man, that's pretty cool. Thanks for sharing that. So then that kind of led us into the point in our lives where we're like, all right, let's stop living for today. Let's start planning for tomorrow. Let's not work our lives away, and let's see what we can invest in. And, you read about a bunch of different stuff, and it just so happens on Craigslist, there is this laundromat in our town, and we're in a small town.
Famous last word.
I graduated high school with about 80 people, just tiny. And there's a laundromat for sale. Now, this laundromat, I can remember when I was 12 years old, picking up my newspapers for my paper route at 3 a.m. at the convenience store right next to the laundromat. And there'd be people in there doing laundry, 3 a.m. And that's always stuck with me as, there's something to that. So I started watching, podcasts, laundromat resources, and reading about laundromats and seeing there was just a ton of opportunity to add value in this place. And we ended up, closing on the laundromat right as COVID became a thing. Our timing was awesome. So that's how we got into it.
Okay. I mean, first of all, that's a crazy story. And, man, very, very happy to hear that, you kind of made it through that cancer journey. You kind of glossed over it a little bit, but I know there's just a lot of things that go into that, right? Emotionally, for you, for your family, for your friends, your community, it's a big deal. That's a scary piece of news to get. And there's a lot of uncertainty surrounding that. And, it's interesting because when something like that happens, it does give you this perspective shift, right? Like you're like, we're not guaranteed tomorrow. So why do we wait on doing the things that we want to do? Right. And so you had that perspective, and it sounds like at some point you also said, well, yes, and there still is a tomorrow, hopefully, or we at least need to plan on it. Right. And so there's that balance, right? That we all have to try to kind of figure out how to navigate. And I think that having each of those perspectives is a super valuable, thing. Cause you're right. Nobody is guaranteed tomorrow. And yet at the same time, you can't just leave tomorrow to take care of itself. You got to think a little bit about tomorrow also. And especially when you've gone through the experience that you've gone through and, had a realization that, I may not be here tomorrow, but my family might be here tomorrow. And like, what, thinking about it in those perspective too. So, man, kudos to you, number one, for beating cancer, and double kudos to you for climbing Kilimanjaro, which I have seen, and it is no joke, man. I have seen that thing in person, and it is a big mountain. It is a big mountain. And triple kudos to you for climbing it again, second time. So, man, what a wild journey.
Again, it's not the tallest one in the world by any means, but the fact that when you're on the puddle jumper and you fly in at about 18,000 feet, you're still about 1,300 feet below the summit. You can look out the window and you're looking up at the mountain, and not going to lie, you kind of wonder what you've got yourself into, for that next week of your life. But no, it was cool.
Yeah. Well, lucky for you, you're a glutton for punishment. You went back and did it again, and then you bought a laundromat. So, okay. So you found this laundromat in Craigslist, and, what was it about this particular laundromat that attracted you?
You start reading about the industry in general, and you kind of wrap your head around, and it resonated with me. But it's just, again, it's small town America. And I knew that this store had been there my entire life. It always had business. There was plenty of room for value add, but it was also the logistics of it of, you hear, depending on people, they try to stick to facilities within an hour, half hour, whatever people's numbers are. Well, this was literally in our town. And with 3 active kids between my wife and I going to work and going to school and running, we were going by it all the time. And we just knew that, that attention, we wouldn't have to really go out of our way to give it attention that it needed. And it was kind of funny as we were doing our due diligence, there was myself, my wife, and a couple of our closer friends that knew we were watching it. We'd just text each other with how many cars were in the parking lot. No other context, just 3, 2, 0, just these texts going back and forth. And it was kind of fun for a while we were doing that.
All right. So take us back. Okay. So you found this thing on Craigslist and you decided, hey, we drive by this thing all the time. I'm familiar with it, for a lot of years. What was the process like did you was it straight to the owner? Was there an agent? How did that all work out?
So there was a realtor involved, and we kind of reached out to them, and they gave us some information, then started talking to the owner, and just kind of getting a feel and doing, just getting a feel for it and why did they want out of it, and trying to get an idea the best we could. And we just decided, we got to a certain comfort level where we're like, we think we can make a go of this. And obviously we didn't think we couldn't, or we wouldn't have done it. But, knowing what I know now, didn't do a lot of the important stuff we should have done, but we got fortunate in the deal, and just kind of put our heads down, and we're stubborn about some stuff, and have eat through the first couple of years so far.
Good. Yeah. So when was it? When did you buy it?
So it would have been early 2020, right as COVID hit, first quarter of 2020.
Yeah, that's right. Okay. So, all right. Well, I feel like we got to talk about that a little bit. So you bought this thing and COVID hit. Like what did that do to the business?
Well, within the first week of having it, the lady who was cleaning for us, she had some sicknesses and was immunocompromised in her lungs. And she kind of said, thank you, but we're out of here. Can't do this right now. And we were trying to see, like everybody else, where laundries fell in the world, and if we were essential, and how our locality was going to enforce stuff if it did come down. And for a while there, we were closing up at night just to allow things to calm down, and go in the morning and clean with, things settled, and we clean and then be open for the day. And we did that for a while, but now we're back to 24/7. And the most remarkable thing, the lesson we took away, was that people still kept coming through the door. Mm-hmm. And that will stick with me for a long time. That's a good thing about this industry.
Yeah. 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 Essential by designation, but also just essential. It's like, You got to do the laundry kind of no matter what's going on. You can hold it off a little longer, but it's still got to get done. So,
yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So, I mean, did you see kind of numbers go down from what you thought they were going to be from your due diligence or from what the previous owner said, or did they stay pretty relatively flat? What did that look like?
They actually, Jordan, we were blessed that within the first month that we owned it. Now, I do have to give the asterisks that we're in a resort town, kind of. So we are seasonality, kind of opposite of the way that I gather the rest of the industry is, where laundries are busy in the winter and not during the summer. We're in a summer resort town, so we get a lot more business in the summer. That being said, we really don't know what we don't know, because we can look at the previous owner's numbers, and I don't really know if they mean much to us with the way things are going. Mm-hmm. But in that first month, we started to see an increase, and it was really good. Some of the low hanging fruit, first thing we did was get some LED lighting up, fresh coat of paint. And almost instantly that started translating into increased revenue.
That's interesting. So, I mean, are there other laundromats in your town there?
Nope. No, there are not.
So
at one point there were 3.
Okay.
But now there are none.
So where do you think this new business was coming from? Do you think it was people coming in from out of town? Because I mean, I know a lot of the resort towns got hit pretty hard during COVID when people weren't traveling as much and they weren't vacationing as much. But do you think it was people coming in out of town that made it go up, or where do you think that new business was coming from?
Yeah, because it's for our area, it's a high traffic location, and as we have changed a place and made improvements and spoken with our customers and got dialogues going, there are people driving right by, going to the next town over that has 4 stores, some of which are well-run, nice stores. Mm-hmm. And people even going to the other town, which are the opposite of that description that I just used, but they at least knew that if they put their quarter in, the machine would work. Right. And that was a thing that wasn't always the case with ours. So, it's just kind of recapturing some of the customers and the traffic that had been there over the years that were going elsewhere.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, that makes a lot of sense too. And that's, I get asked this a lot about people who are looking to buy, and maybe we can talk a little bit about some tips for people in smaller town areas. But I get asked that a lot. Like, is there any potential for me to grow my business if I go buy this laundromat in this small town? And I think that's one of the major things to look for is, are there people driving out of your town to go do laundry because the laundromat is not reliable. It's gambling. You put your quarter in the machine, and is it going to work? Is it not going to work? Maybe it's exciting a little bit in Las Vegas, but in the laundromat, it's not as exciting.
Right. And there's nothing wrong with, going to the next town over and taking your laundry basket and some quarters with you and being a customer and being a personable customer that talks to the other ones. Mm-hmm. You can learn a lot doing that.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And especially when you're doing your due diligence, and whether you're in a small town going to the next town over, or you're in a large metro area and going the next block over, you can still do that. And it's worth hearing, well, let me ask you, did you do that? Did you go to the next town over and put some quarters in and talk to customers?
Yeah. We actually, my wife and I called it our date Saturdays. We spend a wicked amount of time driving to other laundromats and looking at vend prices and, walking through, maybe doing a laundry, sometimes just walking in and buying a candy bar, and looking around and I guess we're sick and twisted, but that was an entertaining afternoon to us some days, it's so, yeah, we did that.
I'm like,
still do that, I say.
Yeah. I'm liking your wife more and more. She sounds pretty awesome.
She is, without a doubt.
Yeah. So when you guys were going on your dates to these laundromats and you're talking to other customers, like what information are you trying to get, or like, what are you talking to them about? What are you asking them?
Just kind of, sometimes it wouldn't be direct questions, just kind of leading statements to see if they bid on it or not. One of the constants I found in life, and I think this translates across many businesses, is that people's perception is their reality. It doesn't matter what the facts are. How somebody perceives something, that's how they perceive it. And that's their reality. So if you have a store in a certain town and they perceive it as not a great place, it's unsafe, it's dirty, it's whatever, that's their reality till you can prove them different. So you just kind of, be in the company of customers and dialogue with them. And some people, it'll set their radar off if you ask too many direct questions. You can make just statements and see if they chime in. And it's been my experience that people are usually more than willing to share their opinions.
Yeah. I've said this before, but it's a lot easier to rehab a laundromat than it is to rehab the reputation of the laundromat. Because you're absolutely right. That people's perceptions of your laundromat, that's how your laundromat's going to be seen. It doesn't matter. So like, for example, when I bought my first laundromat, I came in and I redid everything. I put in all new machines, almost all new machines. But I kept hearing for like 2 years, like, oh no, that laundromat's, dirty, or that laundromat's dangerous, or that laundromat's, XYZ, because that's what it was for a really long time. And it just took a lot longer than I expected to rehab the reputation of the laundromat. And, relatively speaking, it was pretty quick to rehab the actual laundromat, get new equipment in there, throw some paint on the walls, all that stuff. So you're absolutely right. Any tips that you have for, you went in and did some stuff to your laundromat. Did that help the reputation of it? Did you have to do anything else for that?
Oh, well, it just it's nothing unique that hasn't been said on here on a lot of different articles about laundromats of clean, safe, fresh coat of paint that you touch up on a regular basis. That goes a long way. And we're also in a situation where social media can be just a hugely powerful tool, both ways. In a positive or a negative light. So we kind of put a little bit of Facebook work into play, and we're blessed to have lots of friends that are active and would recommend us. And you also have the God bless it, the small town touch of, hey, did you hear so-and-so bought the laundromat? Hey, they're doing this, it kind of, people talk. There's not a lot going on, so people talk. So you kind of use that to your advantage, I guess.
Yeah, I like that. We don't get a whole lot of that small town talk, over here in LA. People are,
right.
Nobody knows who anybody is. Nobody knows their neighbors. So,
right.
Yeah, no, definitely an advantage there of the small town. Well, because I think that's huge. And I think the social media component is a big one and is more utilized now than it has been for sure in the past. But I still think largely underutilized as, as a marketing tool for laundromats. And we're still, as an industry, we're still wrapping our heads around the whole marketing side of things, most of us. Yeah. And so, but man, the social media, you're right, has that power.
Well, I actually had a funny story, trying to work with Google because, the listings for this place had some not so nice things to say about it. And it was still important to us to take over the existing one and instead of redo one. But, we don't receive mail there. We have a business mailing address. And since those didn't match up, they wouldn't release the listing to us regardless of this. And I finally ended up on like a video call with a fella. And he wanted so badly to see a picture of the sign. Well, our sign wasn't in yet. There wasn't a sign there that matched our business listing as we had edited it to. And so he just wouldn't release it to us. I'm walking around, I'm taking keys and opening the change machine, opening the office. I'm like, if this wasn't my place, how am I doing all this? But without that freaking sign to check mark his box, it was no go. It didn't matter. And it was just exasperating. It was like 10 minutes of my life that I'm not getting back of exasperation going, okay, fine. I'll wait till the sign comes in, then I'll be in touch, just kind of.
Did they eventually give it to you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. After the sign was there, I just took a picture of the sign. There you go. I was in both change machines, but that didn't mean anything.
Yeah. I've had infuriating experiences in fact, I'm still I think I've mentioned this on the podcast before, but there's my Laundromat Resource Facebook page is still on Facebook, and I do not have access to it because my account got hacked and I was removed as an admin. So if anybody's out there and has tried to book a call with me through Facebook and I ignored you, that's why, because I didn't get it, because Facebook won't give me the page back and they won't shut it down so that I can start a new one and start over. I've been going back and forth for like a year with these guys on it. It's crazy. But yeah, I feel your pain on that.
Exasperating. That's the only word for it. Exasperating.
I know. And yet they're still such powerful tools, right? And so
right.
I guess necessary evil to try to put up with these guys sometimes.
That's it. Yep.
All right. So, I mean, talk to me. Let's go back to, day one. You go through your due diligence. It sounds like you had some tough negotiations a little bit with the seller, and you bought the place. What was it like when you first bought your laundromat? How did you guys feel? What was it like?
Oh, we were excited, and it goes back and forth from excited to what did we do to excited to what did we do, and I don't know how many times it went through that cycle, but then you kind of learn talking to the customers and spending time there. What ones to take with credence and what other comments to take with a grain of salt. But it was cool. We'd, small town America, as we were painting and doing stuff, we'd have friends stop by and help out, or just stop by to see how things were going, or, that part was all good. It was interesting. And we were just really blessed that things went well, especially with the shit. That was a really uncertain year in the world, basically. And so we saw numbers just continue to climb, and it was cool. We're still in it and looking to expand. So we're pretty happy with the way things went.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm curious, you said, summer's your busier season and business was kind of going up. When summer ended, did your numbers still stay above what you thought they were going to be, or did they come kind of back down to earth, or what was that like?
No, there wasn't a crash. They tapered off a little bit, but I think we were still seeing the reclamation of older customers that were coming back and giving us a shot. It's, business begets business, crowds beget crowds. People were seeing cars there and seeing some changes and stuff, and they'd stop in, and it wasn't unordinary for somebody to say, "Hey, I haven't been here in 3 years, but we've seen people coming and going, so we decided to give it a try, and boy, we're glad we did." Just things like that. So, and then you also learn. I don't know. You look at stuff and stuff that one day seemed fine, then you learn a little bit something, or you do a little bit of reading. You're like, wow, that's completely backwards of what it's supposed to be. I need to get that addressed. An example I use is there's 2 dryer rooms in the facility, and they had exhaust fans to try to suck the hot air out from behind the dryers that were blowing out of the building, right? Uh-huh. Well, these dryers are designed to work in a gymnasium or on the side of a mountain. They want all the free air, the fresh air they can get. Right. And here they were already fighting against a negative draw right from the go. Yeah. Okay. The first thing we need to do is unplug those fans, yet alone rip them out of the wall and get louvers in there. So, yeah, but we didn't know what we didn't know. And I'm always excited every day to find out what else I don't know that I don't know. Yeah. Well, right now, Andrew Cunningham is smiling at you because he is all about that makeup air. So that's it. Yeah. And if anybody hasn't listened to Andrew's, I mean, his podcast episode is one of the most downloaded ones by far. And, the guy knows his stuff. He knows the business really well. So I'll put a link to it in the show notes. And if you're on YouTube, they'll be down below if you want to go listen or watch Andrew's podcast episode. It's a good one, but and I'll give him direct props. That's directly from him in that podcast of listening to that. And the light bulb went off in my head of, well, I'm exactly wrong on this, that we need to fix that, so. Yeah. Yeah. Flip those fans around and get the air going in there. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's awesome to hear, for one. I mean, that's the whole point of the podcast, is to introduce people like you to everyone else and things that are working for you. Cause, I get asked a lot about
small town laundromats, and I've never owned a small town laundromat. Right. And so having, people with all these various different experiences and depths of knowledge is just awesome to hear and to help us all make our businesses better, right, and run better. Okay, so you are, your business is going pretty well, and you're seeing increase go in, and this was like 2 years ago, basically now, almost exactly 2 years, huh?
Yep.
And you're you mentioned, wanting to expand a little bit. What's on the horizon for you guys?
Well, that was 2020. We bought our first store. And then we'd set the goal in 21 that we wanted to continue to invest in something. We wanted another step. We didn't know what exactly that would look like. And it turns out in hindsight, that looks like a self-storage facility and some residential rental property doors and some commercial rental property doors. So 21 was a wickedly interesting and fun year.
Yeah.
And then, we set the goal this year. We want to add another laundromat this year, kind of circle back around to the laundry and not just to get the check mark, but to add one that makes sense. And our goal kind of from the beginning has been the number 5. We don't know why. There's no logic to it. We just think if we're going to do this, it makes sense to scale to at least 5. And as we were working on our store, we could really see how that made sense to, once you have the knowledge base, to put it to work elsewhere.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Well, I know this is Laundromat Resource Podcast and all, but can we chat just for a second about self-storage and rentals and all that? Do you mind?
I will chat about anything you want to chat about, Jordan. It's Valentine's Day, man. I'm here for you.
That's dangerous to say that, because who knows where we could go from there. But one of the reasons I'm really interested in, specifically in the self-storage stuff, is because it gets lumped in, right? Self-storage, car washes, laundromats, they get lumped in a lot as cash flowing businesses, as good businesses. The storage industry has blown up like crazy over the last maybe 5 to 7 years. That market has really boomed. I think laundromats are poised to do the exact same thing over the next 5 to 10 years. And I think this industry is going to continue to boom as people realize what we have over here. But I'm curious about the self-storage. How did you get into that side of things?
It was actually a very organic thing. We ended up buying it from the fellow we bought the laundromat off of.
Oh.
He was looking to retire and travel more and just liquidate what he was working with. And he had it on the market for a while and wasn't getting anywhere with it. But again, especially after running the laundromat for a year, I became aware of the opportunity to add value and that there was room in there. And, went ahead and took the next step. And then that led us to learning and looking at self-storage and falling in love with that industry as well. And to the point where we're constructing our second facility now. It'll come online this spring here. We've got offers out on a couple more too. So we're liking that too.
Man, you're going full bore. So did you decide, hey, let's look into let's look into storage facilities and then find the one that the seller was selling? Or did you somehow hear from the seller that he was selling it? How did that happen?
I had been aware of it. And I liked the industry or the concept. I had been aware of that listing. It took me a while actually to put 2 and 2 together to realize it was the same person. But then when that was kind of the aha moment of, yeah, all right, let's run this down and see if there's potential there. So
what I love about that is that, so I do consulting calls all the time. I do so many consulting calls, and I hear over and over and over again, like I'm scared to take that first step to get in, or, I'm just having trouble getting over the hump to to get it, or I'm looking for the best deal, and people get super nitpicky. And I think it's out of fear a lot of times, where they're just looking for any little thing to kind of not go forward. Right. But I tell people all the time, look, get your foot in the door. You know, get a solid base hit, that first one. And number one, you might have an opportunity to create something more than a base hit out of it, kind of, like how you've increased your business. And number two, I have found, and it sounds like you have found this personally, but I have found kind of across the board that once you kind of get that first thing under your belt, opportunities tend to kind of come your way a little more often, and a little bit better opportunities kind of come your way, and they can kind of snowball that way. So I'm always trying to encourage people, hey, you got to take action to get that first one under your belt. Doesn't have to be a home run. Get a solid base hit to where you got a solid business, and then opportunities are going to come your way. I don't know. That's me. I don't know if you found that too.
Well, I think there's a couple aspects to that. There's, of course, validity to that. And there's people like yourself saying that to those of us that were out there, me 2 years ago, going, man, I don't know. Can I do this? Can I? And that was part of the huge reason I wanted to come on and kind of share our story, is that I am just nobody special. I'm the dude next door, the middle-aged guy, just took the first step. You have people on every week and every podcast that have forgotten more about this industry than I will probably ever know, but I'm kind of muddling my way through it. I think there's that, but then there's also the mindset of you'll find what you're looking for. If you want to be negative and find reasons not to invest or not to do something or not to climb the mountain or not to go on the trip, you'll find those reasons. If that's what you're looking for, that's what you'll find. But if you're looking for opportunity, you'll find opportunity. Now, that very quickly, you got to follow up with, what's the saying? You can't drink from every cup that you're offered. Mm-hmm. You have to be aware of that. But no, I definitely think there's the plentiful mindset of, if that's what you're looking for, that's what you'll find. And I challenge myself with that daily as much as anybody else, of controlling your own mind and then going from there.
Yeah, I love that. I'm writing down this quote. You'll find what you're looking for. If you're looking for opportunity, you'll find opportunity. I mean, that I love that. And I love the mountain analogy too. I mean, because it is like climbing a mountain, especially getting that first one, where there's just a lot to overcome to get to that summit. And I like so much of any progress in life is just your mindset, right? And so I think I used to think that was a little too woo woo, a little too like, I don't know. I wasn't buying it. And I think the more I've gone, the more important I think your mindset really is. And the more I think your mindset really determines, to a large extent, the path that you end up taking in life and the path you end up going in life. And having that mindset of, I'm looking for opportunity, right? Don't look for problems, look for opportunities. I'm looking for opportunity. And that's just a huge kind of shift that I've gone through over the years. And I think a lot of people, are going through or need to go through or have gone through kind of over their lives.
Well, and you can, like I alluded to, you can go through it daily. I mean, I still struggle with having my head in the wrong place and looking at the wrong angle on the same situation, where you kind of have to shift your perception and get your head in the right place. And what was a problem can become an opportunity to improve or an opportunity to change something or do better. So,
yeah, huge. I think you're dead on that. And, for me, even, I think daily is probably too long of a horizon for me. I'm like, man, I can go. I was telling my wife this actually like last week or something. I'm like, dude, entrepreneurship is so crazy, because literally 1 minute I could be like, I have got this thing licked. I am I'm high on the mountain, right? And then literally the next minute, for one little thing could like happen, and I'll be like, oh man, I do not know what I'm doing here. And I'm back in the valley like immediately. So
there's this little voice in the back of my head that mocks me from time to time and says, who left this guy in charge? You know, like what the heck? So,
yeah.
And I use the mountain comparison. I'm not a huge mountain climber. I'm not some world travel mountain climber. It was a walk up a hill, but it's almost anywhere in life. I've found that if you look at the whole staircase, if you look at the whole mountain, if you look at whatever analogy you want to use, it can and does get overwhelming. It's just that first step. Nobody's asking you to step to the top all at once. Just take that first step. Focus on that step that's right in front of you, because you can do that one. I guarantee it, you can do that one.
Yeah, I'm writing that down too. I mean, that's such good advice. And you know, I think that the journey kind of perspective is the perspective you have to keep. You got to keep the long term in mind. It goes right back to the discussion we had in the beginning. Like, yes, seize the day, seize the moment, because we're not guaranteed tomorrow. And yet at the same time, you got to figure out a way to kind of hold the long-term perspective in mind at the same time, right? It's not about, being the best right now. And I think a lot of people get frozen in their steps. They can't take the next step because they're afraid to not be at the end of the journey when they take that first step. But in reality, you just need to take the first step, and then you get there eventually when you just keep doing one step after another. But that's a huge perspective shift, I think, that I need to be reminded all the time, because I still struggle with it.
Me too. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, man, that's, I don't know. I just feel like some people need to hear that. So go back and rewind that if you need to hear that again, because I think that is, I think it's a big deal. And whether we're talking about your investment journey, or you're talking about, dealing with like a tragedy or an illness, like a cancer, right? It's same thing with cancer, right? It's like you got to do one step at a time. Otherwise it's too much, right? It's too big.
Yep.
And
yep.
It's just a huge, I don't know. I'm feeling all the feels. Maybe it's because it's Valentine's Day. I don't know. I'm feeling all the feels right now. I think it's a big deal. I think
you're spot on that because when I was going through treatment, my wife and I would often talk to each other, and right from the beginning, one of the agreements we had with each other was stay the hell off of Google. Don't be looking anything up, and don't let our minds get away from us. It's very easy to say. It's very hard to do, but it still comes back to that. What's in front of us? This is today. Let's work with today. Let's not worry about tomorrow, next week, and all that. Let's fight whatever's in front of us today. It's the same idea. It's that step in front of you. That's what you got to do to get to where you want to be. So, yeah.
And I mean, taking it back to the investing side of things and the business ownership side of things. Like you keep saying, hey, look, I'm nobody. I'm just a middle-aged guy doing my thing, taking my one step at a time. But literally that's how everybody who's quote unquote a somebody became that way, right? Like you might look at yourself and say, hey, like I'm a nobody, but I guarantee you there's a lot of us listening to you right now who are like, you're a nobody who owns a laundromat, a storage facility, some residential real estate doors, some commercial real estate doors. You're building another storage facility. You're trying to buy another laundromat. Like that's not sounding like a nobody, to most of us over here. And yet I think what you're trying to say is, hey, I'm not doing anything extraordinary that other people can't do. I think that's what you mean by saying you're a nobody. But yeah, if I'm wrong.
No, that's the take home from this. If I can do it, anybody can. And I haven't done anything just yet, but I'd like to think that if I talk to myself from 2.5 years ago, my my 2.5 year younger self would be like, wow, man, you got some stuff going. Good work. Nice hustle. Or maybe he'd be like, that's scary stuff. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how it ends up.
Yeah. Well, and that's part of it too. As I think a big part of the reason why we have to have that one step at a time mentality is because, I would guess, I know this for me personally, but I would guess, for you, the you of 2-3 years ago probably wouldn't be as equipped to handle your current situation, your current load, your current investment load, as your now you is, because it's taken all of those steps to become the person who can manage what you're managing right now, and who can think the way that you're thinking right now, and who can think, okay, I'm going to add another laundromat or two, and I'm going to get to 5, and I'm going to, have however many storage units and residential doors and commercial doors. Right. And that's a big part of why I think it's important to have that step-by-step mentality, is because not only do you have to go step by step in order to get the things you want to get, but you have to go step by step to become the person you need to become in order to do the things you want to do, if that makes sense.
That's a great point. That makes a lot of sense. Yeah, that makes a ton of sense. That's a wonderful point.
Yeah. Okay. Man, this has been awesome to hear your story. And, so we have a section called Down to Business, and I want to hear a little bit about your business. I'm going to talk a little bit about the details of your laundromat business in particular, and maybe we can, throw in a little bit about your self-storage stuff too, because that's a little bit interesting and semi-related too. But remind us again, where are you located?
We're in Northwest Pennsylvania. I say balmy Northwest Pennsylvania. I think it's about 7 degrees out right now. So we're getting warmer out there.
I don't think I really even get warmer. Oh man, I have nothing but sympathy for your whole area right now. I just don't know how you even survive over there. And I'm going to be very genuine right now. I'm not sure I know what balmy even means.
Warm and sunny. I
don't know. I don't think we use that word here, because I think that's just normal weather for us.
Well, my wife and I often joke. We say, why do we live where the air hurts our face? The air hurts our face. Why do we live here? And her answer is snakes and spiders. That's why we live where the air hurts our face.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. You got to make trade-offs. Although we don't have a whole lot of snakes and spiders around here either. So I'm just saying, but it is costly. You got to pay for it one way or another, whether it's paint on your face or snakes and spiders or just straight out of your pocketbook. You got to pay. So pick your poison. All right. So you're over there freezing your head off. And so we already talked about, normally I like to ask how many laundromats, real estate, investment things you have. But we kind of already mentioned that. You got self-storage, you got laundromats, you got residential units, commercial units. Pretty much you own half of Pennsylvania is what I'm gathering.
No. Okay. Pennsylvania is a really big state.
It is big. And you've been in the business since early 2020s. We already talked about that. So talk to us. What does it cost to do laundry in a small town in Pennsylvania?
Our vent prices, we basically the first number matches the capacity. So our 20 pounders are $275, 30 pounders are $375. The whole way up through our newly installed 80-pound machine, which I refer to that as the Bachelor Laundry Special, because there's an 80-pound washer and 80-pound dryer right behind it. So everything can go in one, turn and put it in the other, and just be done.
Great design.
So that's where we're at with that. We're in the middle of the pack for our county. We're above some of the more rural stores than us, and behind some of the little bit bigger town stores. So we're kind of in the middle of the pack, but that's where we are.
Yeah. out of curiosity, I mean, right now is just this unique time. Again, I mean, not necessarily, well, I mean, I guess we still have some of the pandemic stuff going on, but kind of some of the fallout, I think of, and it's not just pandemic fallout, but like we've got like rising inflation, bills are going up, all this stuff is happening. Are you adjusting prices at all during this time, or have prices pretty much stayed even for you?
No, we adjusted. They were not that when we bought the place, and really to use the overused phrase, we bought a zombie. Mm-hmm. I mean, it had not been reinvested in for years, and we made all kinds of improvements. Still have more that we want to make. We air conditioned it for the first time ever, which I know you're thinking it's 7 degrees out, Dan. Why are you worried about air conditioning? Yeah. Well, we have this awesome thing in the summer called humidity. It is just, it in the summer here, it can be 93 degrees and 100% humidity, and that's just ignorant hot. And so we air condition. We replaced about 2/3 of the equipment in it. And so we did all these things, and Dave Menz's words were playing in my head the whole time of, if you don't value your stuff, nobody else is going to. Mm-hmm. And so we were adding a ton of value for our customers, and we adjusted the prices accordingly. And we have a couple more improvements here in mind that over the next year will be made. And, we'll continue to adjust. One of the things we did, and my wife and I went back and forth on this, we just added some TVs and put Atmosphere TV in.
Hey, all right.
And, so far it's received really good feedback with all but one person that keeps unplugging the one TV, just kind of whatever. But, it's for the most part, we're trying to add value that the customers can see and experience, and then keep our prices adjusted accordingly.
Yeah. I think that's wise. I think that's smart. And, as you're adding value, just, charge for that value. And I love that. As for the customer that keeps there's always that customer, isn't there? I mean,
yeah. Yes.
Yeah. Hey, at least they're feeling comfortable enough to make themselves at home there, I guess.
Well, I kind of look on the bright side of, if somebody is that comfortable, then maybe they're going to tell somebody to pick up their dryer sheet or not to trash something. If they feel that strongly tied to the place, then maybe they're watching it too. Maybe there's a silver lining there. So
that's right.
Trying to look on the positive.
That's right. And those dryer sheets, man, I feel like as soon as one hits the ground, at least in my unattended laundromat, as soon as one dryer sheet hits the ground, it's like a free for all in there. There's like chicken bones getting thrown everywhere and diapers. And I'm like, I don't even know where this came from. Like license plates. I'm like, what? Turned into a junkyard.
Car door, whatever. We joke that used dryer sheets are the heaviest substance on the planet. Yeah. Nobody can pick them up. They've got to be the heaviest thing in the world. That's really funny. I can't tell you how many nights I've laid in bed thinking, how do I create some sort of vacuum system or something that'll just suck them up? Because gosh, man, I cannot tell you how many of those things I pick up. I'm gonna have to like hire a chiropractor for my back, just bending over to pick those things up. And now I love what you said, the heaviest. That's really funny. I view them though the same way I view dirty floors. I would rather have a laundromat that gets dirty and has used sheets everywhere, because it means people are coming through the door.
Yeah. I love that.
As twisted as that sounds, I know.
No, I mean, I think you're right, man. I mean, obviously we prefer a lot of people use it and also, take care of the place, but, barring that because obviously that's not a possibility, because we as humans are not capable of that, I don't think. But, it's better to have a well-used laundromat that gets a little dirty than a spick and span that's not getting used, for sure. And also I think, somebody should make a t-shirt that has a dryer sheet on it that says the heaviest substance known to man. That'd be hilarious.
There's only like me and you and 4 other people in the population that would get that, though. You know that, right? That's a pretty limited market.
I think my entire audience would understand that, because we all deal with that. That's pretty funny. Maybe I'll order some and do a giveaway or something, because that'd be pretty funny.
There you go.
Okay. So how about, can we talk about turns per day? Do you mind talking about that?
Yeah, again, we're seasonal. We're in a resort town, so some points of the year we're just under sub 3, like 2.8, 2.9. For the majority of the year, what we've seen, we're right around 3.3, 3.4 if you average it across the machines. You know, God love the couple top loaders we keep around that people are just clinging to like their lifeblood. You know, those top loaders will have, some weeks they'll average 5 turns.
Yeah.
You know, I just can't get away from them. The people just, they're comfortable with them, so they cling to them.
How much you charge for those top loaders?
Well, they're at $250 right now.
$250. Yeah.
Although there is one, it's kind of a fun game. There's one that I bought used that the previous owner had programmed on Tuesdays was their slow day. So this one machine will roll back on Tuesday nights to $1.75. And there's like 3 people in our whole store that have figured that out. So that one machine on Tuesday nights is busy, you know, and I kind of leave that as the Easter egg for people to find. I don't advertise it. I just leave it there. And they, of course, aren't going to tell other people. So,
yeah, that's pretty funny.
I love little tidbits like that. I think that's fun.
I agree. I think that's hilarious. And I think it's fun for customers too, when they kind of figure it out, and, you know, especially if they think they're pulling the wool over your eyes, and it's pretty fun. Yeah. I mean, that sounds right in there where, you know, where what you should be doing, that 2.8 to 3.3 kind of turns. One of the things that I was trying to figure out, because like you said, people love those top loaders and cling to them. And one of my laundromats, I don't have them anymore. My other one, I still have some in there. And like, how do I get people to stop using these things? I'd rather have like nothing than these, you know, these washers. And so, I mean, I just kind of kept, you know, every few months, just raise the price a little bit more. People kept paying it. And then I hit like a threshold where they were about the same as those 20 pounders, and maybe, I can't remember if it was around then or maybe like a quarter more than the 20 pounders. Right. And people started sort of filing to those 20 pounders. All of a sudden I started seeing my 20 pound turns going up, and I'm like, okay, I've found the spot now where people can still use those top loaders, but I'd rather them use the 20 pounders because it's going to get their clothes cleaner for one, and it's going to cost me a lot less money for them to use it for 2. And it's going to get done faster for 3. So it's like a win-win-win all the way around. So that was one of the things that I did that ended up working.
But I've had, and I don't think, at least at this store, we'll ever be able to completely get away from them, because we have, you know, people are set in their ways. Humans are creatures of habits. And I've had a couple of the older fellas, the older bachelors say, you know, if you don't have these anymore, we're going to drive the 10 miles to the next store that does. You know, they've just laid it right out there of, you can get rid of them if you want to, but you'll lose us. So
yeah,
we'll see what the future holds.
That's good feedback to have. Yeah. And at least you can make your decision, you know, based on actual information, you know, whether you keep them or let them go. Are you attended, partially attended, unattended? Just
unattended. My wife and I, and even our oldest daughter, if we go by, we'll stop in and pick up dryer sheets and straighten up. And, you know, the cleaning staff that we have, they take a pretty good interest in it, and they live right up the road. So they'll stop by if they see something. I mean, there's constantly people in and out, but no, we're not attended. We're unattended.
Yeah. And you're unattended 24/7, right?
Correct.
Yeah. Yeah. I tried that for a little bit. And it was rough for me. I had like a whole like homeless encampment moving in, and I really had to stay on top of it. I was setting my alarm a few times in the middle of the night to check the cameras on my phone. And then I'd be like, I got to go deal with this. And eventually I was like, it's not worth my hassle anymore. So. Well,
I think that's part where we're blessed to have this, for lack of a better term, call it a heritage store that's been that way, you know, forever. And we're in small town America where we don't have a whole lot of that population. You know, so as long as it's not an issue, we'll keep at it. And it seems to be good. It amazes me looking on the camera how many people do laundry at 4:30 in the morning. It's amazing to me.
Yeah, well, that's what made the decision hard for me to not do it. Is there's a lot of people who, you know, do laundry in the middle of the night for whatever reason. So are you coin store, card store, hybrid store?
Nah, coin.
Yeah. Yep. And I mean, if you had to take an average week, about how many hours would you say that you're putting into this laundromat?
What's you talk about t-shirts being made. I think Dave should have shirts made that say "it depends," right? Hashtag it depends. If there's no projects going on, maybe we're looking at 5, 10, 15 hours a week, depending on what's going on and what the bookkeeping is and the time of year. But if there's projects going on, new machinery, or we're doing something, it's not unreal to be 35 or 40 hours a week on top of my day job, my real job.
Yeah. How are you?
It all depends. It depends.
Yeah. How do you manage that? I mean, if even at 10 or 15 hours a week on top of your day job, and I know you have, your storage facility and you got, other rental units and stuff. How are you managing all this?
Just kind of stay after it, I guess. The next book, I'm finishing up one book now that's about business, and my next book will be on time management. So if anybody wants to shoot me a book or a recommendation on time management, I'd love to have it, because I know I can get better at that. But yeah, it's just staying after it. And some days I do way better than other days. And, I'll kind of laugh at it and say, well, today wasn't great. We'll get it tomorrow. Can always improve.
Yeah. Yeah. That's awesome. Well, I mean, I love what you're doing. I love that you're getting it all done. And I think we all can use, improve our time management always. Right. One of my favorite ones on that, I guess it is on that. It's on, I guess, productivity, but the 80-20 principle was a really good one that I really liked. I'm trying to think if I know I've read other ones. I don't know if I think of any more, I'll shoot them your way too.
Sure. Please do. Cool.
Yeah. And I'll put a link to that book, 80-20 principle, in case anybody wants to check it out in the show notes or description on YouTube. Awesome. Awesome to hear about your business and what it's doing. We have another section called Secret Sauce.
Listen up. It's the secret sauce.
And secret sauce is, hey, what's something that you feel like is working for you in your business that other owners can implement to help them improve their business?
I think the biggest thing is to do one thing. And I've heard that from a number of people in a number of different areas, but just getting better each day and doing one thing. And it doesn't have to be a huge thing, but figure out which aspects need addressed and what are priorities, and do one small thing that you're progressing in that area every day consistently. You're not going to make or break your businesses in one day. You're going to make or break your efforts by paying attention to consistently putting effort into it. And I think that's the biggest thing we can all keep in mind, is just consistent action.
Yeah, I love that. Coming from the guy with laundromats and commercial real estate and residential real estate. No, I'm just kidding. I'm giving you a hard time. No, but I love that. And again, it's kind of the theme, the mountain climbing theme of this whole episode, right? Is that one step it's about the journey, right? One step at a time. You can't start at the bottom of a mountain, and we're not Superman. We can't, leap the mountain in a single bound, right? We got to take the one step at a time. We can't expect to be exactly where we want to be right away. We got to, get better every day and just kind of enjoy the journey as we're going. So, it's very fitting for this episode. Great advice. We have another section called Pro Tips.
Pro Tips.
And Pro Tips is for the newbies who you were, a little over 2 years ago and, maybe looking to buy your first laundromat. What do you think somebody who's looking to buy their first laundromat needs to know before they get into this business?
Only they can answer that for themselves, what they need to know. But they need to know whatever they need to know that makes them comfortable taking that first step. You can spend your life researching it. You can spend 10 years, but whatever that tidbit is that makes you take that first step, on the top of to the top of the staircase to the top of the mountain. And, Walt Disney was a visionary. And I often think of his quote of the best way to get started is to quit talking and begin doing. And that's just, whatever you need to know to take that first action. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, so good. It's, again, like I've done so many consulting calls where people are just trying to take that first step, right? And there's a lot of fear to overcome, in that, like, I don't know. Can I ask you about this? When you were getting ready to climb Kilimanjaro the first time, I mean, how did you make that decision and decide, okay, I'm going to climb this giant mountain on the other side of the world? And I've never done it before. Like what gave you, like, what did you do in that scenario to give you the courage to say, okay, I'm going to take the first step and go for it?
Well, whatever school you want to buy into, whether you're Christian, religious, whatever, but I really have a strong feeling that the Lord or the universe or whatever you want to refer to it as, I'm still here for a reason. I was left here for a reason. And I feel that opportunity had been put in my path for a reason of, I don't think there's anything spectacular about me that I was left here, but maybe I can encourage somebody or help somebody else along the way. And that's what it's really all about. And, so that thought of, well, you're left here, Dan, and this opportunity is in front of you. Whether you're scared or not, you need to do this. You need to do it you don't know why, but you need to do it.
Yeah.
Sorry to get a little emotional and out left field, but that's why.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think that's, and, for you had this acute experience, right? Where, you ran into something that could have taken your life, right? And you were spared. And like you said, for whatever reason, you were spared and you had an opportunity put in front of you. And not everybody has that acute experience like that. However, I mean, we're all here, for a reason. We've all been spared this morning when we woke up, for a reason. And, just because death wasn't, knocking on our door conspicuously, like, hey, we're still spared, every single morning we get to wake up and, you can spend it being afraid, or you can spend it saying, okay, I'm here, for a reason. So what am I going to do today to make it count for myself? But what also am I going to make, how else am I going to make it count for the people around me, the other people in my life, or the other people I, might be able to influence. And I like having that outside kind of perspective and that outside motivation too, in terms of, the decisions that you make and the ways that you want to spend your life. And that was a big part of why I got into this industry too, is because, I had a family and I had young kids and I wanted to try to free up some time for myself to be able to spend time with my young kids and all that. Right. And having that outside motivation can help overcome some of that fear too. We have a last section called recommended resources. And, do you have any resources that you would recommend for people to help them either, their business journey or their personal growth journey or something along those lines?
Well, sure. And, we can go with the obvious ones, Laundromat resources. And you and I had talked a little bit earlier where I feel like we kind of, parts of our journeys or our paths have grown up together a little bit. But then you have Dave Menz, who's putting out a ton of information. There's a ton of information out there on YouTube and stuff. And that doesn't always necessarily mean it's right. But more so than specific resources, I would encourage people not to scoff at the idea of investing in themselves. We'll look at our facilities and we'll say, oh, I'll spend $10,000 on a new washer, or I'll spend $3,000 on a new change machine, or, a new parking lot's $20,000, whatever. We see that as investments, but then circles around to, well, okay, I'm not going to take this management course for $500 because that's a lot of money. Well, no, go ahead and invest in yourself, because if you're not investing in yourself, what are you really doing with the rest of it? So, I challenge people to look at these different things and go ahead and invest in themselves and grow themselves. Just because something is free doesn't mean it's worthless. Just because something's, expensive doesn't mean it's worth full. But you got to make those calls on your own and not automatically say, well, that's too expensive, I'm not going to do that. You put yourself in the right room with the right people, and if that leads to a conversation that totally changes your trajectory, what's that worth? Was that conference too expensive then? It just kind of, that's the way I look at it.
There's just so much wisdom coming out of this episode. And like this, for me, this will really like punctuate. You laugh, but I'm serious. So just, you got a lot of wisdom, coming out of here, and I appreciate you sharing it with us. But this one kind of punctuates it for me because, I think it's hard. And to be fair, it's tough, right? Like you said, it's tough to quantify how much it's worth, getting an idea from being in the right room with the right people and it changing the trajectory of your life. It's hard to quantify that. Whereas you can say, well, I go spend 10 grand on a machine. It's going to do this many turns. I'm going to recoup my investment this amount of time, and then I'm going to be profiting this much, or whatever. So that's a little more concrete. Whereas when you're investing in yourself, number one, sometimes it's hard to quantify how much that's worth. And number two, the timeline is ambiguous a lot of times. Sometimes you got to read 60 books a year for, business books a year for 5 straight years before you can look back and be like, holy cow, I have come a long way in my business journey or whatever. And you didn't really realize it, right? And the timeline can be a little bit ambiguous. However, I love what you're saying because it's dead on, right? You got to invest in yourself, in your own growth, in your own learning. And whether that's going to a conference, buying a course, getting in the room, however you can, with people who are doing what you want to be doing, either physically in the room or digitally in the room. And man, there's just, like you said, you can't put a price on that. And also, like you said, not everything is created equal and not everything is priced according to its value. So you do have to kind of judge that. However, man, investing in yourself, it makes me think of, I think How to Win Friends and Influence People. Seven Habits of Highly Effective People.
Yep.
And, that whole sharpen the sword, right? Sharpen the sword. And, basically what he's saying in there is you've got to make yourself better. And going back to what we were talking about earlier, you've got to invest in becoming the kind of person who can do the kinds of things that you want to do with your life. Right. And I'm like rambling a lot right now, but I'm so excited about what you just said. And I'm just so on board with what you just said, that I'm going to stop. And if you want to comment on something, I'm going to stop rambling.
No, it is. And it's actually a lesson that I've carried with me. And one of the members of the first team, the first time we were in Africa, and I won't name names, but the fellow's a very successful fellow in his own right, in his own career. As you're trudging up the hill and you've got hours and hours in a week that you're trudging up this mountain, your conversation goes on many different topics. And one of the things that he said that always stuck with me is very poignant of, he doesn't invest in the market. He doesn't invest in people that are running businesses that he may never meet or will never meet. He says, that's ludicrous. He says, I'm doing something I believe in. I'm going to invest in myself because I can control the destiny with that. To give my money that I've worked for and to give it to somebody else to invest, I'm not doing it. And it's just always not that, there aren't good and sound investments for people that aren't wired the right way or whatever. And diversity is good. All those things that everybody will talk about. But at the core of that is, yeah, man, take part of your money and put it into yourself because you're doing what you're doing. So why wouldn't you invest in it?
Yeah, I think, I love that. And I'm 100% on that bandwagon too, where I don't know. I've said this about for example, the Laundromat Millionaire Conference that's coming up in beginning of March. If you're not coming, you should be there. I think Dan and I will both be there. So come hang out with us.
Game on. I can't wait.
Me too. And, I think I made this comment a couple of weeks ago on the podcast, but, I fully intend on that one conference being worth six figures, at least to me, just from being in the room with some of those people and some of the opportunities I know that that's going to present to not just me, but, to other people as well, hopefully. And so, sometimes it can feel, if you have the wrong mindset, it can feel like you're just kind of dumping money into something that you're not sure if you're going to get a return on or not, but it's all part of the process of becoming who you need to be to do some of the big things that you want to do in life, if you want to do big things in life. So love that. Dan, this has been incredible. I really appreciate you coming on, sharing a lot of your wisdom, and actually kind of even more important than that, sharing your story, because, the courage that you've had to go through what you've had to go through and to get to the point where you're at now is not common. It is extraordinary, and it's not extraordinary because, you're innately necessarily an extraordinary person, but you've been able to do extraordinary things by doing things that any of us can do, but consistently and over time and with diligence. And extraordinary results, genuinely. So don't put yourself down too much, because it's extraordinary. Last question I have for you is, if anybody's interested in chatting with you about your journey, in life or in laundromats, what's the best way that they can get a hold of you?
My email is probably the most dependable. It's ladsent, LADDSENT @yahoo.com. Shoot me an email. Oftentimes phone calls can fall by the wayside, or text or whatever, but yeah, email I'll circle back around to. So that's the best way.
Yeah, perfect. Well, again, this has been incredible. Thank you so much for spending Valentine's Day with me. This has been very romantic.
I feel like I should do the hard thing that my daughters do, There you go. I appreciate you having me on, Jordan. Thank you so much.
Yeah. And likewise, and cannot wait to hear about, we're going to have to do an update episode down the line here when you get to your 5 laundromat mark, and who knows what else you'll have by then. I don't know. You might own Mount Kilimanjaro by then. Who knows? Could be crazy. So,
no. All right. Thank you.
All right. Enjoy your day.
You too, Jordan. Thanks.
All right. I hope you're pumped up about just life right now, and you are feeling like, man, I can move mountains. I can do anything. And, it's kind of funny. I didn't actually do that on purpose, but, his illustration about climbing a mountain one step at a time. It's so fitting. And, sometimes I need to step back and remind myself, sort of the atomic habits kind of mentality. Keep doing the small things consistently over and over and over. Listening to an audio book right now called The Ultimate Sales Machine. And I think the way he puts it is like pig-headed determination, right? Just to continue to do the things you need to do to find success. And most of us don't ever achieve our goals because we don't have that pig-headed determination, just to take one step at a time to climb that big old mountain. So that's my kind of big takeaway from today. I don't know what yours is, but go over to the forums, share what your takeaway is from this episode, and interact with other people about takeaways, because I say this all the time, but it's our actions. It's the actual steps that help us climb to the top of the mountain. It's not learning about mountain climbing. It's not buying the gear. It's not any of that stuff. Listening to the podcast only, learning, watching videos, reading blog posts, reading books. That stuff is all great and important stuff. But the thing that actually gets you to the top of the mountain is actually taking the steps. So pick one step to take this week, and let's get you on your way to climbing your mountain. My other takeaway, which I thought was hilarious, I just had to bring this back because I thought it was so funny, was when he said dryer sheets have got to be the heaviest thing known to man. I just thought that was so funny because it's so true. I just, especially my unattended laundromat, but even my attended one, you walk in and it's like people can't pick those things up. So anyways, huge thanks to Dan. Hopefully you guys are jazzed and pumped up. Go conquer the world this week. And hopefully I will see some of you guys at the Laundromat Millionaire Conference this upcoming week. All right. See you guys next week. Peace.